Greetings, LEGO enjoyers, and we got another version of the DeLorean Time Machine for Back to the Future. Yeah, just in case you haven't known already, this is the second version of the famous and iconic DeLorean Time Machine. So, let's see how it is. Okay, here we go. Alrighty. Yeah, got the base, which nearly all Speed Champion sets use. It's also a 2-in-1 build, which is rather cool. You don't see that in Speed Champion sets. Okay, instructions. And there's the sticker sheet. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to see how this one stacks up against the original LEGO DeLorean. Yeah, and there are some of the other sets you can get. Really cool. Had it not been for Back to the Future, the DeLorean would have been another car that would have been forgotten to time. It was this movie that made it popular. Alright, there's Doc Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd. Yeah. Make sure the pieces on there. Right, oh, and it's multi-faced as well. There. Yeah, and Marty McFly, played by the one, the only, Michael J. Fox. The famous Canadian. Yeah. Good. Sure, we have the vest on. That's one of the things that he's known for. It'd be crazy if they made an NES edition to Marty McFly. Have the black muscle shirt that he's not known for in the movie. Yeah, I don't know what is up with LJN and doing weird things with characters. And movie licenses that they have. Like, they take a lot of liberties. Yeah, LJN is one of the undisputed kings of crap. Yeah. And you got both plastic bags and paper bags. Pretty interesting that they went with both. It's usually one or the other. I'm guessing there were complaints. Yeah, I want to see the other famous Back to the Future vehicle, the Toyota Hilux in the Speed Champions set. Yeah, the Speed Champions one. Yeah, Doc Brown doesn't need the wrench. Well, unless he's fixing up the DeLorean. Do it like this. Big. Building up. Yeah, the last time I built the Lamborghini Vision Gran Turismo, which was one of the most frustrating builds that I've ever done. Rightfully so. Like, I've never seen a build with as few pieces and yet is frustrating to build as a lot of the bigger cars. Yeah. It's one of the most iconic vehicles in the whole entire Back to the Future franchise. Probably the most iconic vehicle in the Back to the Future franchise, because it is the DeLorean. And it's the reason why the DeLorean has become a desirable collector's car. Because people saw Back to the Future and they wanted one themselves. Yeah, it was because of Back to the Future that the DeLorean is now an icon. Yeah, it started out as a car that had a sketchy past, especially the whole sting operation. But once Back to the Future came in theaters, everyone wanted one. It was quite slow, especially for the time. But it looked really cool. It looked like a futuristic car. Which is probably why the creators chose it for Back to the Future. Such an iconic car. Alright. go. There it is. Oh, I lost it. Alright, let's go. This is a very, very good car. It's probably one of the best Lego cars that are made in recent times. Although, not sure if it'll ever match up to the original DeLorean. Oh yeah. Okay. That should... Yeah. DeLorean is iconic because of Back to the Future. Yeah, why do you think the Toyota Supra's become an iconic car lately? It's because of the Fast and Furious movies, not because of the 2JZ engine, because the 2JZ engine is widely used in a lot of Toyota products. It's the Fast and the Furious that's the reason why the Supra became so iconic and memorable. Yeah. Yeah, without the Fast and Furious movies, the Toyota Supra would not nearly be as iconic as how it was. It was also the movie that brought along tuner culture. But now, the Fast and Furious movies are just straight up action movies. Yeah, Fast and Furious used to be a movie that caters to the tuner culture, but it's become a series of action movies. Yeah, so just like how Back to the Future made the DeLorean famous, who was the Fast and the Furious that made the Toyota Supra famous. More specifically, the A80 variant, or Mark IV. Yeah, it was already popular enough in Japan, but when the Fast and the Furious came out, it became popular with everyone. Everyone wanted a Supra because of Fast and Furious. Just like how everyone wanted a DeLorean because of Back to the Future. Yeah, this is one of the few cars that you could get on dealerships that's iconic. Yeah, with the Batmobile you had to build a replica. Because, well, the Batmobile isn't manufactured in real life. So you're on your own and building a replica of the Batmobile. Which is what people did. They built replica Batmobiles. Okay. Yeah. That's why certain cars become popular. Because it's movies that help bring them into the spotlight. Yeah, the Toyota Supra was famous because of Fast and Furious. It is the reason why people want one and why it's overpriced, because, yeah, Fast and Furious. Yeah. Yeah, and that's why the Supra became desirable, the Mark IV Supra, because before then, it was a car that was remembered by barely anyone. When Fast and Furious came out, that's when it started becoming popular. Yeah, the DeLorean was a big failure, but it was Back to the Future that helped bring it to the spotlight. Yeah, Back to the Future is the reason why the DeLorean is iconic as it is. It's as iconic as it is. It might not have a lot of horsepower to be the fastest, but it's definitely futuristic looking. And seeing one in real life is definitely a sight to behold for the Back to the Future guys. And some people have even gone as far to make DeLorean Time Machine replicas with them. Yeah. Another iconic movie vehicle is the Ecto-1 from Ghostbusters, and I have the Lego set of the Ecto-1. It's another 80s car that's very iconic. Yeah, it's a Cadillac ambulance that was converted into a ghost-catching vehicle. An interesting fun fact, the Ecto-1 broke down during filming a few times. Yeah, it was one of the few clunkers that was made into heroes, because the Ecto-1 is just a really cool car with its iconic but noisy siren. Okay, number 2. Back number 2. There it is. Yeah, Universal Studios has always been known for turning hopeless vehicles into icons of Hollywood. Yeah, The DMC DeLorean was a big failure and bankrupted the DeLorean Motor Company. But when Back to the Future came out, that is when the DeLorean became famous and iconic. The Toyota Supra, the Mark IV Supra, sold terribly compared to its previous generation. As was saying, the Mark IV Supra sold terribly compared to the previous generation, and people in Japan loved the Supra. But sales of the Mark IV Supra weren't as good as people expected. But when Fast and Furious came out, the Mark IV Supra became an icon. And Jurassic Park has also made vehicles like the Jeep Wrangler and Mercedes ML320 iconic. Although the Jeep Wrangler was already a famous vehicle, but having it featured in Jurassic Park made it that much more iconic. And the Ford Explorer also became iconic for it having a CD-ROM. Yeah, it was fast. For the time at least. Yeah, the Ford Explorers were tour vehicles. And we all remember that scene where the T-Rex roars. It was a spectacle, and Jurassic Park is also the reason why the T-Rex now stands horizontally, because Steven Spielberg wanted to challenge the status quo and make the T-Rex as realistic as possible. Although there have been scientific studies that say that the T-Rex didn't actually roar. But it was cool in Jurassic Park. It roared in Jurassic Park. And it was really scary. But unfortunately, scientists have reconstructed real T-Rex sounds, and I gotta say, it sounds like a Trevor Henderson cryptid. The real T-Rex sounds like something for the Trevor Henderson lore. Yeah, it doesn't have the roar that everyone associates it with, but it sounds just as terrifying. It sounds like a monster that you would not want to encounter. Yeah, and Velociraptors in Jurassic Park are the Deinonychus. Yeah, the Deinonychus is the dino that inspired the Velociraptors in Jurassic Park. Interestingly enough, instead of making those calls and screeches, the real Velociraptors make bird-like sounds because the Velociraptors being descendants of birds. In fact, birds are dinosaurs. Yeah, scientists can identify real dinosaur sounds by constructing the skeletal structures and what would have been voice boxes. the only truly realistic dinosaur sound is the Parasaurolophus. There's also the Quetzalcoatlus, which has the screech that you would expect from a pteranodon or a pteranodon relative. Yeah, there are a bunch of dinos in the pteranodon family, especially the Quetzalcoatlus. Yeah, because the Velociraptor was discovered to have feathers, some people have went out of their way to make feathered Dinobot mods. The more you know, am I right? The more you know. Trevor Henderson. Yeah, he's known for making terrifying creatures like Siren Head. Yeah, if you see a Quetzalcoatlus, run. If you hear one, run. There's supposed to be a second. Oh, there it is. If I had to put up an order form for a spare piece, but yes. Oh, look, there's the flux capacitor. I'm glad that piece is printed on. That's the flux capacitor. Yeah, the Spinosaurus in Jurassic Park 3 is known for its roar, but it turns out that they woo sounds. Yeah. For a long time, Hollywood led you to believe that the Spinosaurus roared. But it didn't have the vocal capacity to roar, although it sounded really cool. T-Rex. The T-Rex. T-Rex is one of the scariest dinosaurs to ever exist. Scariest. Yeah, I do like the asymmetry going on. Yeah, you got a lot of dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. T-Rex. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you meld together a lot of dinosaur genes and make a hybrid that can't even control itself. The T-Rex will always be king. Queen. Interestingly, even though in the movie the InGen scientists didn't want the dinosaurs breeding, they made the Indoraptor a male. Why they did that? Yeah, it's a scary dinosaur. It does not discriminate. It is probably InGen's worst nightmare. T-Rex. Yeah, it's nature's perfect predator. Yeah, the Carnotaur appeared in Disney's movie Dinosaur. Yeah, they were supposed to be the T-Rex, but they wanted it to be geologically accurate. But it was Jurassic World that made it famous and have it be nicknamed the Carnotaurus. Yeah. Just when you thought the T-Rex was bad enough, you got another predatory dinosaur that is really fast. And it's hard to outrun. Yeah. Its speed makes the Tauntaun look like a slowpoke. Yeah, if it went up against the Tauntaun would be eaten. Because the Carnotaurus is really fast. It does not mess around. Yeah, the Carnotaurus is another dinosaur that is, yeah, that is just as bad as the T-Rex. You usually get how many of these oversized theropods exist? Like, you have the T-Rex, the Carnotaurus, and the Allosaurus. Yeah. The Carnotaurus was once a lesser known relative of the T-Rex, but that was until Jurassic World made it a popular dino. Oh, look at there, that's really clever. How the taillight... It's really clever of how the taillight assembly was built. It matches the DeLorean pretty well. It's also a 2-in-1 build. Yeah. Yeah, for a long time, the T-Rex was viewed as an upright dinosaur. Yeah, it stood upright until Steven Spielberg wanted to challenge the status quo and make it an upright dinosaur. I mean, a horizontal dinosaur. Yeah. It was Jurassic Park that came up with the notion that the T-Rex stood horizontally, like a bird. Yeah. And Jurassic Park popularized the modern depiction of the T-Rex that we now hold dearly today. Yeah. Steven Spielberg wanted to basically challenge everyone's perception of the T-Rex. It would have been impossible for it to stand upright like a kangaroo. So that's why Steven Spielberg had the T-Rex stand horizontally. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Steven Spielberg produced Gremlins, but he wasn't the director of Gremlins. It was Joe Dante who directed Gremlins, and he also made Small Soldiers. Yeah, Small Soldiers. A movie where it was supposed to be like Gremlins except killer toys. But didn't do that well though, and it had a cult following. And people want a sequel to Small Soldiers now. Because how much of a cult following it got. Yeah. Think of Gremlins except instead of creatures that want to just have fun and cause chaos at the cost of humanity, you got toys roaming around. And yeah, it was an attempt to capitalize on Toy Story. But it didn't turn out that well. I mean, what else was DreamWorks going to do aside from try to make lightning strike twice? I mean, they tried it out with Shark Tale. another movie that tried to be like a Disney movie. Well, a Pixar movie. But it wasn't nearly as successful. Yeah, it's crazy how much DreamWorks tries to copy from Disney. But it works. It sometimes works. Especially with Shrek, which actually parodied Disney movies and poked fun at fairy tales. Okay, let's see where the piece is. Alright, we got this one, which goes in there. Yeah, it is much easier and much less frustrating than the Vision Gran Turismo car they built. That was a nightmare. And you never know if you got it built right or not. Because the Lego Lamborghini Vision Gran Turismo is frustrating. I am not likely ever going to buy another one of them because I don't want to go for the same thing again. See where the other piece is. There's a lot of black pieces there. Okay. Where could it be? There it is. Yeah. And do not forget the stainless steel gull-wing doors. That is one of the more iconic features of the DeLorean. Yeah. The DeLorean did exist, but it wasn't that popular. Until it was featured in Back to the Future. And like I said, a movie can turn one failure into a success. Yeah. It'd be cool if I got a DeLorean in real life. I'll make it into a DeLorean Time Machine replica. But unfortunately, I don't have the cash. So gotta stick to Lego replicas. Yeah, Lego versions of this car. Alright, where is... I'm gonna dig through the black pieces until we find that one. There it is. Yeah. Okay, here we go. These are really freaking small pieces, man. Alright, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, that's how to build it faster. Just do the same thing on the other side. There's not much point in flipping the instruction page when it's basically the same thing, except flipped. This is steering though. And there's the front console itself. Really cool that they include that. Alright, let's see. Alright, where is it? Where? Nope. But there it is. See? Put it over there. Yeah. I do like the fact that it doesn't have that many stickers. It's mostly sticker free. There we go. And we can skip along ahead of those pages because we already did them. Yeah, I did the other side just to save time. Okay. Now we got the other pieces. This I can tell is going to be part of the car itself. Alright, here we go. I find it ironic that Deadpool and Wolverine has Power of Love. Yeah, that song's been associated with Back to the Future. Yeah, I wanted to check it to see if the camera was recording or not. Yeah. That is real cool. And this is the set that requires this piece. Yeah, it's the very last bag, by the way. There we go. Yeah, nothing but good old stainless steel. Yeah, it's a stainless steel car that can travel back in time. Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, the reason why they picked the DeLorean is because it looks like a spaceship. Yeah, it definitely does go with the vibe of it being a time-traveling car. It can basically look great in any era. Ironically enough, there was a Pontiac dealership in Back to the Future timeline of 2015, but Pontiac went out of business in 2009. Well, 2010. GM retired the brand because they've made most of the same vehicles as Chevrolet, so it was seen as a redundant brand. cockpit. Alright, let's see. Yeah. It's definitely worth it. Ah, good lord, get in there. Get in there. There we go. Alrighty. There's the DeLorean, well, the front bumper of the DeLorean itself. Time traveling car. It shouldn't come along. Yeah. Yeah. If you're gonna have a car that's more popular on the big screen in the dealerships, then you're gonna have people that assume that it was fictional, but it's not. It's a real car, but its presence is not that common. Seeing a DeLorean on the road is like trying to spot a snow leopard. Yeah. The DeLorean is as rare as a snow leopard. So, you're not likely ever going to spot one on the road unless it's the newer electric variant. That is still being made to this day. Yeah, and got the whole thing. Make sure it's exacto. This has got to be the hardest part of any LEGO Speed Champions, that trying to line that freaking piece up. And yeah, if you mess up, it's pretty much game over. Yeah, this is a soft plastic piece. Come on. Come on. Okay. And it's supposed to go over there. Good luck trying to get it there. Come on. This is ridiculous. There. Really? Really? Okay. Oh boy. Jeez. Ridiculous. Alright. Yeah. There are also clips that help it in place. Good luck trying to line it up there. There we go. Yeesh. You kinda overdid it, Lego, but at least it works. This is the DeLorean Time Machine. And it's a cool car. Yeah. If you ever wonder why the DeLorean's in the spotlight, you have Back to the Future to thank for bringing it into the spotlight. Yeah. Fortunately, we can't go back in time and make the DeLorean a success. But what we can do is celebrate its legacy. It being more popular on the big screen than in the dealerships. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, did you know that Jurassic Park was also one of the first movies to have DTS surround sound? Well, one of the earliest. And was a competitor to Dolby Digital. Oh man, we got another one of these to deal with. Okay. This time I think we know what we're doing. Right, that goes there, that goes there, that goes there. It's kind of difficult to line it up, because you have to be exact with where it's going to be. So, yeah, sometimes you might get it wrong. Yeah, jeez. And that could also happen. A piece could pry off like it's nobody's business. This has got to be the hardest part of this set, because of how much flexibility you need. Come on. Oh. Reach up there, man. Jeez. You've really made it freaking difficult, man. That is the hardest piece, man. Oh my god. Huh? Excuse the interruption. Yeah, like, I did not expect someone to come down there. Come on. Get in there, man. There we go. And yeah, you either have this or the other plates. Yeah, it's a 2-in-1 build, so you can pretty much reconfigure it on the spot. Yeah, and there's the handle for the flux capacitor. There's also this piece. Man, like, it is very intricate. Supposed to put it in there like this. Yeah, it just sits in there. Yeah, and there we go. You can reconfigure it. These pieces are cool. But it does have some optional extras just in case if you want to reconfigure it. Get the power of love. Yeah, I was almost done with the set. But then I got an interruption. Okay, go. Put the wheels on there. Hello. And yeah, it's a 2-in-1 build, and you can also reconfigure it to make it look like the flying mode. So yeah, let's take a closer look at it. Well, here it is in its normal land form, and I also brought out the original Lego DeLorean for comparison, the Cuso set. Yeah, this is the OG DeLorean. And yeah, the minifigures are a bit different, but they do have similar hair pieces. Although the OG DeLorean replicates the gull-wing doors a lot better. Yeah. Okay. See, look, that's really cool. Yeah, we now have two different versions of the same car. Although the Speed Champions DeLorean does have a look that's closer to the actual DeLorean itself than the original DeLorean. But it's still a cool set. Although, one thing that it has going for it is that it has a railroad mode that you can convert into once you take off the wheels. And you could also do its hover mode by just putting down the tires like that. Yeah. Whereas in the Speed Champions build, you have to basically build the hover mode. Yeah. Yeah. Both cars have some things going for them. And for size comparison, here is the newer DeLorean alongside the OG Lego Cuso DeLorean that I built years ago. The Speed Champions DeLorean is about the same length. It's a bit longer. But the OG DeLorean is still pretty cool. Yeah, it's got the gull-wing doors. Although with the newer DeLorean, in order to get the minifigures in, you have to open up this. It doesn't have the gull-wing doors that the Cuso DeLorean is known for, and the real-life car is known for. Yeah, I'm gonna put Marty McFly and Doc Brown, both played by Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. And yeah, you got both characters in there, if you can get them in there. Come on. There we go. Both can fit in. And you'll put on the cockpit. So, in some ways, the Speed Champions DeLorean is superior. But the Cuso DeLorean also has some cool features that the Speed Champions DeLorean is lacking. Yeah, and you can also put in both minifigures if you want it, too. Although it's a lot more difficult with the Cuso DeLorean, as it can easily, the other piece can easily pry off. Yeah, the door won't close all the way if you put Doc Emmett Brown in there as well. So yeah, both sets have their flaws and their positives. Yeah, they both have their pros and cons. So yeah, that is a review on the LEGO Speed Champions DeLorean. I definitely give it a 9 out of 10 for accuracy and an 8 out of 10 for the set itself. So yeah, that is that. Catch you guys next time. Peace out.